Quilt borders. We have a special project and we're going to deal with that as an individual thing, but in generalities, borders, I like to work with them from a mathematical base. I know what my quilt blocks measure, so I therefore know what my quilt top should measure, including any added materials in between, like sashing. So I just have to, I add up, if a quilt block says it's going to be 12 inches finished, that's the measurement I'm going to work with, and I'm going to count the number of 12-inch blocks I have in a row. And I'm going to count in the 2-inch sashing. If it's a finished 2-inch sashing, I add 12 plus 2 plus 12 plus 2, etc. Okay, so I like to work from a mathematical base because I do my darndest to be precise. When I make my blocks, when I cut my strips, I am working with those numbers, and I try and square up all of my blocks, all of my units along the way, so that I have 9 times out of 10 I get the measurement that I want. So we're going to work with that attitude and process today. I do that for any quilt, and I would encourage you to try the same. There are times when it isn't going to work, you know, had some trouble along the way, and so you need to adjust. But that's when we still need to cut our borders to a certain length, and we still apply them to the quilts in the same fashion. All right, but if the math doesn't work, but we want the math to work. So you need to know what the finished size of your blocks are. And in this case, we have a finished size of 6 inches. I know not everyone has a 6-inch finished block. There were some that had to make some changes, so you need to know what your finished block size is. We were working with a 6.5-inch unit. When we put it into the quilt, we lose a 1/4-inch seam allowance on all sides, so that gives us a 6-inch finished. If your block was 6 1/4 because of problems with sizing things up, that means that your finished block is 5 3/4. 5.75 times the number of blocks, and you should have your border measurement. But we have some other issues because we have some blocks that sit within that border. So we're going to be piecing our borders. We're going to have some breaks, and that means we have to know where and how we're going to make those measurements. So let's go to the quilt and see how that's done.